Hi, this is Greg Johnson with Blue Book Services here today in our series from the Center for Produce Safety. I'm with Matt Miles, who is Facilities Manager at Allen Brothers, a tree fruit grower shipper in Washington. And Matt, the column this month was really interesting. It talked about striving for perfection, but knowing that excellence is really a good result and a continuous process of getting better. And you told some examples of how you've taken some CPS research and implemented in your packing house. And what struck me particularly was some of the lessons you learned with dealing with listeria.
Truly. So the knowledge transfer task force and understanding how we as end users of this research is good to be able to talk about. So the big takeaways over the last few years have been understanding this information in context with our environmental monitoring program, and specifically understanding the difference between a resident population, a population that lives in our facility, versus listeria that may be coming in from outside sources, either around the facility or from the field, so transient populations. So our sanitation program really centers around that environmental monitoring. So understanding and trying to find where are these potential sources, trying to locate those, and then do some sort of remediation, some sort of heavy duty sanitizing, and or adjusting our sanitation SOPs and or schedule to address those if we see them from time to time.
And I know that you have a fairly new packing house there, and it's considerably larger than you had before. What have the challenges been with implementing some of these food safety practices that you didn't know about before, but now you do?
Well, it's interesting because we had an older facility that was built in the facility itself in the 50s, and then with newer technology in the 90s has really served us to build everything that's on the place. And so there were a lot of different challenges that smaller packers face that we had to adjust to and understand in light of the listeria outbreak from the Bedart and the candied apples. And now with a newer facility, we took the lessons learned as we did our deep cleans and investigation and environmental monitoring from the old line. And we tried to understand, how do we make this better on the newer line? So a lot of the things that we had difficulty with in the previous, we've tried to adopt into the new. So while it is a considerably larger facility, almost 250,000 square feet on the ground floor, and most of that is packing equipment. How do you clean a facility of that size? And you don't get to touch everything all the time. So using environmental monitoring and understanding, how do we prioritize the risk-based assessment, coming back to the fundamentals of our risk assessment, where are hotspots? We test those frequently to understand what is our risk, and then we wrap our sanitation schedule and processes around that. So the thing that you had talked about at the intro with the continuous improvement is really something that we are invested in and understanding, and it's an easy way to see the benefits from that with the sanitation program, is understanding, are we doing the right thing, having that feedback to the crew, whether that be within the food safety and compliance group, but also within the sanitation and production, so that we all understand what we're doing is important, what we're doing is effective, and that is really the centerpiece of our food safety program.
One of the things you said in the column was that listeria is everywhere, and I think a lot of our viewers may come to realize that that's kind of a scary proposition, but it sounds like you have a lot of these processes to deal with that and deal with it properly.
Yeah, and I think that's, let's just say it is everywhere, even though maybe some of our testing shows it's here or there or not. I don't know that any of us truly understand where the root source of any of this comes in, but you know that it always could come. And so if you have the philosophy that it is everywhere, that should scare you sufficiently into testing for it and understanding where your risk lies. And so there are things we know with our bin sanitation program. We know where our highest risk areas are because we see the feedback from that environmental monitoring. And so therefore it doesn't really have to be as scary, because you have some way to quantify it. And when you have some way to understand what the scope of the problem is, in my mind, then you have a way to actually come up with a plan, formulate how do you mitigate, how do you help reduce that risk.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope our readers realize that this is an example from their peers and people in the industry with real life examples. And that, you know, that's what we're trying to do here with this CPS video series.
Truly. I mean, we're trying to work together to accomplish a common goal. And so I feel really strongly that within the apple industry and stone fruit, tree fruits within Washington, we're collaborating to try to understand what our mutual risk is, and would offer that also if there's folks that are interested in what our sanitation practices are and how we're doing about this, to please reach out. We're happy to help.
Great. I hope people take advantage of that. Well, thanks a lot, Matt, for joining us this time. And thanks, viewers, for watching this from Blue Book Services.